Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from How to Visualize Your Channel. We will continue our lab, the Red Arrow lab. This is the video number 31. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been working for about 14 videos on how to secure Windows 10 based on the recommendations of the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States. We have finished these recommendations. It was for about 14 videos and it was a lot. Actually, there was a lot of useful recommendations. Some we can implement without any issues, and some could affect the performance or the flow of work in our network. So we need to be very careful when we want to implement these recommendations. I prefer to implement these recommendations in a virtual environment before pushing it to the production environment. So we have finished working with securing Windows 10. Now we will begin the first video in securing Windows Server. So securing Windows Server means that we will concentrate on servers in specific, especially the domain controller, which is a server, and any server roles servers, for example WSOS server, DHCP. All of these are servers that have Windows Server 2019 operating system installed on them. This is the latest operating system. Actually, it's not the latest, it is the most stable one. There is Windows Server 2022, but this is the latest one that most of us work with. So let's begin our first video on how to secure our Windows Server 2019 based again on the recommendations of the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency. So let's begin our first video. Here we have a group policy. We will name it, or we have created a group policy. We will name it Windows Server Hardening. Okay, and we have another one for hardening the domain controller. So we have two. We will separate hardening the operating system of the domain controller from hardening the operating systems of all of the other servers. So we will now work with securing our Windows Server on our servers excluding the DC. Okay, so for example we need to secure our WSOS server, for example. So let's see what are the recommendations for the Department of Defense. First we will open the group policy, so it is editable, so we can begin working with the recommendations. And then here we can see that these are the logos of the two agencies or two departments, one Department of Defense and the other Defense Information System Agency. Here we can see that this is if you go a little bit further, so this is Windows Server 2019 Security Technical Implementation Guide. This is version 2, release 2. It was released on May 2021. So maybe there is a more updated version of this PDF or these recommendations, but this was the latest recommendations when I was recording the video. Okay, so you can go and check the website and see if there is more updated or if there is an updated version of these recommendations, but we will work with it. And actually if there is an update, it will not be that much. Okay, so let's see the first recommendation for securing the Windows Server. First of all, he is saying that Windows Server users with administrative privileges must have separate accounts for administrative duties and normal operation tasks. So we all know that in our domain controller or in our domain we have users that are responsible for managing the Active Directory. Okay, and we should have other users to manage and troubleshoot the workstation separately. So for example, the common mistake most of us do, that we use the domain admin account, which is a very high privilege user in the Active Directory, to manage the Active Directory and to troubleshoot and manage workstations in the domain. So for example, if there is a problem in one of the workstations, most of us log into this workstation and cure the problem or troubleshoot a problem using the domain admin account. This is very, very serious issue. We should not do this. So what we should do, we will have our domain admin account, use it to manage the Active Directory, and we'll create a separate account. This account will be responsible for troubleshooting workstations on our domain. So he will be acting as a local administrator on all of the workstations in the domain, and it will only be used to access workstations and troubleshoot them. It will not be used, or it will not be given access or privileges to manage the Active Directory. So this is what we mean by separate account for administrative duties and normal operation task. This could be also if we need more security layers, we can make it more further. For example, if we have an account to manage the workstations or to troubleshoot the workstations, and this account is a local administrator, of course he should be a local administrator, so we'll have full control over the workstation. You can also use this account to troubleshoot only problems. Do not use it to access the internet. Okay, so another recommendation, we will see it in a minute, that if you are using a local administrator, or are using an account or administrative account to manage machines in your domain or troubleshoot machines in your domain, this account should not have access to the internet. Okay, so this is one of the things. So tell me, what if I need to troubleshoot a problem on a workstation, but I need access to the internet? So you will need a third account. So any IT should have 3 accounts: one to manage the Active Directory, and one to manage the workstations locally. For example, to manage the workstations locally or in the domain. For example, if there is a driver problem need to be fixed, or something like installing a program, this will be done using the local administrator account. But what if there is a problem on the internet? Okay, you will use the third account. It will be for normal operation, okay, to see something related to a problem on the internet or something like this. But do not use the local administrator account to go to the internet, because this account could be hacked. So here we are separating duties. Every user will have separate duties and responsibilities. The domain admin will be only responsible for using the Active Directory. The local administrator will be used to troubleshoot problems on the workstations inside the domain and outside the domain, but it will not access the internet. A third account will be used to troubleshoot normal problems, something relating to websites or to the internet, and this account will have access to the internet, and it will be very limited. It will not have a lot of rights, just only to view and see what is the problem. Okay, he will not have, for example, privileges like the local administrator. Okay, so how this is done, you remember our design when we designed our Active Directory or the Red Alert Active Directory structure. Let me show you all what I mean by here. So here, if we see the structure of our domain, we can give it a little bit like zooming. So here we all know that we have this, the Red Alert domain. We have tier 0 and tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3. Tier 3 is the Russian branch or the Russian army. Tier 1 is the American army. Tier 3 is the or tier 2 is the Japanese army, and this is the headquarters. Okay, so we have, for example, if the Russian army or the Russian IT need to access the Active Directory, he should be in the group which we call it IT USSR. So this is a group that will contain users to access the Active Directory and manage it, okay, or to access his OU and manage his OU in the Active Directory. Okay, and then we have another group called USSR admin workstations. The users of this group will be able to access workstations and manage them in the USSR branch or the USSR OU. Okay, and this will be local administrators on all of the machines in the Russian army. This group will be an Active Directory admins. So I think they should be a member of the domain admin group in the Active Directory. And then we have two other groups. We remember that if we need to access this is another security we have done. If we need to access the Active Directory, okay, we need to do this through a special machine, especially if you're doing this remotely. We need to access it through a machine called PAW, or Privileged Access Workstation. This is a very special workstation. We have done a lot of configuration on it to make it secure. This workstation will not access the internet. There will be a lot of security layers in it, so it is only sole purpose is to access to Active Directory with a very secure connection. Okay, so also this we will have special users to access it. So we have something called Pow Admins. These are special users that will only access the Pow workstation. So for example, we can take this group or the members of this group and make them Pow Admins. Okay, so this is one of the things. Pow Admin, he will be, or the users of this group will access or will be local let's see, will be local administrators on the machine. I think no Pow Admins, they will be local administrators on the Privileged Access Workstations. And Pow users, these are the users, okay, that, or the members in it will be the one that can access the Active Directory through the Pow. So the Pow Admins, they are local administrators. They have full rights on the machine of the Pow. Okay, as for Pow users, they are not local administrators, so they can't manage the machine. They are only allowed to access the Pow to connect to the Active Directory, so they don't have local rights on the machine. So if you can see, we have a lot of groups and a lot of users. So every IT should have multiple accounts, some of them to manage the Active Directory and some of them to manage the machine, the machines locally or through the domain in every branch, and another user to troubleshoot normal problems concerning the internet. And the local administrators or the users accessing the machine and troubleshoot it should not access the internet, especially if it is a local administrator. So this is the first recommendation. He's saying here that we need to separate administrative privileges. Some administrative duties, something like managing the Active Directory, and the other like normal operation tasks, something like managing a problem managing a problem or troubleshooting a program, uninstall software, adding a driver or something like this. This also so this applies to servers or to domain controller in specific, because we are talking about the Active Directory. Okay, so the users used in the Active Directory should not be used to manage the workstations. And this, I think it will not apply, for example, for the WSOS. For the WSOS server, for example, the local administrator of the WSOS should only be used to manage the WSOS server, for example, install a software or something. If you need to manage the WSOS as a software, this should be done by another user, something like the domain admin account maybe. So here he's saying that we should separate administrative privileges, okay, from normal operation task. This should be done in workstations or in servers. This should be applied to both. Anyway, so we'll continue. We have already done this, and we have done this from the beginning when we have designed the Active Directory. Okay, so this is very we have done this very earlier in the lab. Here we can see, if we go to, for example, the Ally Army, if we go to the Active Directory to the Ally Army and we go to the IT group, here we can see that we have a lot of groups. Allies IT, this is the group or its member, they can manage the Active Directory. So the members of this group will manage the Active Directory. As for the ITWA or workstations, these members of this group will manage the workstations, and they have rights on the locally and through the domain on workstations. So they are local administrators on the workstations in the domain, and they don't have access to the Active Directory. These users or the members of this group will have access to the Active Directory, but they are not local administrators on the machines in the domain. So everyone will have separate duties. Okay, and we have POW users, we have said it before, and POW maintenance in previous labs, especially or special in previous videos, how to secure Active Directory or mitigate credential theft. We have talked about POW users and POW maintenance. So we need to have separate, or every IT should have 3 or 4 accounts, everyone to have or to use it in specific situations. Okay, so the user used in managing the Active Directory will be different than the user to manage the workstations and troubleshoot them. So this is very, very obvious. We have done this before. So we are doing this just to make sure if one of them are hacked, the hacker will not have full control over the domain. So for example, if he hacked the local administrator account, he will only be able to manage or to control the machine locally, but he will not manage the Active Directory, for example. Here we can see that he's saying that built-in administrator account must be changed at least every 60 days. This is also was discussed in Windows 10 recommendations or securing Windows 10. Every Windows, when you install it, there is a default user account called administrator. This administrator have full control over the operating system. Okay, so this should be disabled if you have it on a server, and you need to give it a strong password, and this password should be changed every 60 days. This is a local administrator account. A local administrator account, we mean that he can manage it, or he can only control the operating system locally. A local administrator could not manage the domain. Okay, he can manage the machine. So this is why we call it local. Anyway, there is software, an automated tool called Microsoft Local Administrator Password Solution. This is, you can configure it in your domain, and it will automatically change all of the built-in administrator accounts on all of your machines and servers. It will manage it. It will change their password automatically, and every password will be different than the other. So no two machine or no two local administrators on a machine will have the same password. Every local machine on every PC will have a different password than the other machine. So if you have 100 PC, you have 100 local administrators. Every administrator will have a password, and it will be complex. It will not be a simple password. So you should use the local administrator password solution. I have a video in my Transformers lab on how to configure the labs. Okay, so here he's saying that this should be done on domain joined systems. Okay, so this includes servers and workstations. Okay, so this is also one best practice to change the local administrator password, and this was discussed in the Windows 10 securing or Windows 10 secure PDF or recommendations. And here, for example, he will have we will run a PowerShell to know if our local administrator password is set, or it has been set at least from 60 days ago. So let's go here, for example, and run it. Here, by the way, you need to have one thing to do. We need to run this PowerShell command on the domain controller, because here we will need to secure the Windows server on the domain controller. So we should run this PowerShell command on the domain controller. Here I have run it on my POW workstations, but let's see. He will get the local administrator on my POW, not the local administrator on my server or on my domain controller. So we will rectify this error later. We will connect remotely to the domain controller through the Windows Admin Center, and we will run this command on the server and see. So here, let's have a test, or let's see if we run it on our POW. Let's see what this command will get us. Okay, so here, if we run this command, okay, and then press enter, here we will give us the last time I have set a password. The last time I have set a password, this is the time it will begin counting when the password will be expired. So here we can see that it was set on 14/08/2021. Okay, so this is I think, yes, this is maybe on August. Okay, September, yes, August. So if you are working on the normal password setting in your domain, the password setting in your domain says that every account should expire after, or its password should expire after 90 days. So here we need to take care to change this password automatically every 60 days. First we need to see the expiry date of this password. There is another command you can run, the PowerShell command, to get the password last set and the time this password will expire. In a previous video I have shown you that it expires after 3 months, okay, or after 90 days. So we will leave it for 90 days, okay, so we will not change the password setting of the domain, but we will use the Microsoft Labs to tell him to change the password automatically after 60 days. So this is we should do, okay, because this is a very strong password. We could not leave it for more than 60 days, or as the recommendation says. So here we can see this is the administrator, this is the SID or the security identifier. This is a unique number that is related to the administrator. No other account should have this unique number, and the password last set time and the time. So it was set on 14th of August 2021 at midnight, okay, 23 minutes 56 seconds. So we should run this command on the domain controller, and we will run it actually, but this is the local administrator on I think the POW. So this is local administrator of the POW or the workstation. So this is one account, this is one PowerShell command. We can run another command, but not through the PowerShell, through the command prompt. We can run this command actually also to get the same data. So let's see also this command. It's called net user, then the account name, and then find last password set value, the last password set value when we have set this password. So let's see, actually the other command will give us the same data, but it should be run through the command prompt, not through the PowerShell. So here we will run this command actually, okay. Let's see what will be the result. So we'll copy this command, okay, and then we need to go and run it. And also this should be run on the domain controller, okay, not through the POW, okay. And actually I have run this command on the PowerShell, and it gave me the same result. So you can run it through the PowerShell and it will work actually. So you should not only run it from the command prompt, but you can run it from the PowerShell. This will work as well. So let's copy the command, and then we need to go and define the user. But here you should give him the user, or you should tell him what user you need to get his last password set value. So if here, for example, I know that my account or domain admin account, local administrator account is called care of 1, not care of 2. So let's see when I run this command what it will get me. It will get the local administrator account on the machine, on the POW. Here he doesn't find care of 2 because it is not there. I will tell him care of 1. This is the local administrator on this machine, and also it is the second local administrator. The first local administrator is care of only. Here we can see that he said me that, okay, it was set on 1508, okay. This is 2021 actually, but at 1 after midnight, okay. So this is also another way to get the user last password set, okay. And then we can calculate from this date how much time is left until the password expires, because we all know that the default Active Directory password age, okay, or maximum password age of the Active Directory, and this applies to Active Directory users and local users on the machine, it's 90 days, okay. So this is 2 ways we can get this data, but this is for the POW, okay, or on the machine or the workstation. If we need to see this on the domain controller, we should run it through Windows Admin Center. I will show you all now how we can do this. And this is I will show you all the domain, the local administrators. So here we can see that I have two accounts. I have discussed this before. This is the administrator account, and it was renamed through a group policy, care of, and this is another account acting as an administrator. It is care of one. So I have two local administrators. One was named administrator and it was changed to care of by a group policy, and the other one is care of one. It was already created when I installed the Windows, and he is acting as an administrator on the machine. So these are the two accounts. Actually I think you need also, if you change the password of this account by the lapse, you need also take care to change the other account password, or remove this completely and leave only one account, okay? Because the Microsoft Labs will only be able to change one account at a time, okay? So it will not be able, and actually it will change the local administrator or the built-in administrator. Any other administrator account, it will not change it. So you can delete this account and use this default account, disable it, and as I said before, rename it and give it a password, okay? So we can continue working. So these are the recommendations. Let's continue and see what are the upcoming recommendations. But before this, I need to connect to the domain controller remotely and see the local administrator on the domain controller and see his password, last password set. So we need to do this. We need to go and connect to the domain controller remotely. This will be done using the Windows Admin Center. So this should be done using the Windows Admin Center. Let me have a look here first, guys, on how much time we have. Yes, it's 26 minutes. Anyway, so let's continue. So we will close this one and then we will connect to RACC01. This is the domain controller, and then we will remotely open a PowerShell prompt or a PowerShell session and then run the same commands on it. So now we will run these commands on the domain controller to see the local administrator account on the domain controller, because we are talking about securing Windows Server. It's not securing Windows 10. Okay, so need to go and open or make a PowerShell session. Yes, connect to this one and then run the same command. We will run the same command and see. This is how you can identify or know that your local administrator account on your server, its password is set, or it is greater than 60 days, or it was not changed at least from 60 days. Here we can see this is the command, and then press enter. So you can see, yes, it was the same data actually. Anyway, so it was not set, or it was set at 14/8, so we need to have 60 days included. So we need to change it before October 2021, okay, or in the month of October. Okay, here we will type the other command, and then we should identify the name of the account, because this command we need to supply the name or the account name. Here we will type, I know that my local administrator is named care of, okay, or care of 1. So let's see. Yes, I think it's care of, not care of 2. Okay, yes, I have a user called care of 2, not care of 1 actually. Let's see here. He will tell me that he doesn't have this account, okay, because I have it care of 2. This is the second administrator. The default administrator is administrator, and it was changed to care of. So this is the second administrator account, and he's saying the last password set was 14/8/2021. So here we can know the local administrator's last password set. Actually, here I tried to see the local administrator account from this interface, but here is saying that I cannot do this. Okay, I cannot do this. So we can check the local administrator from the Active Directory users and computers. this tool cannot be used to connect to a domain controller. Okay, so you can do this, but after I think after adding a special add-on. Anyway, so let's continue working with the other recommendations. Here is saying that administrative accounts must not be used with applications that access the internet, such as web browsers, or with potential internet sources such as email. So we have said before that the IT will have separate accounts, one to manage the Active Directory and one to manage the machines locally or through the domain, and it should be a local administrator. Okay, this local administrator should not access the internet. Okay, so you should only use it to troubleshoot problems and solve them, but not accessing the internet. So for example, you cannot use your local administrator account to access the internet, or use your local administrator account to set up an email or something like this. This should be not done with the local administrator account. So you can do this with a separate account that is limited, and it will only do these jobs. And we have seen before that when I was working with the POW or creating the privilege access workstations, I have a group policy to block internet access to the local administrator and open it to certain users. You can do this using the firewall, or you can use it, or you can do this using or by applying a proxy and make this proxy 27.0.0.1. We have done this before. Okay, so we need to take care to do this. And he's saying if you have this, there is some exceptions for local service administration. So for example, if you are using some tools to manage the workstations, and these tools need the local administrator account and they need access to the internet, you should take care that these websites are secure, something like HTTPS. You need to take care. So this can be controlled through the firewall or through a group policy. I think it will be more controlled using the firewall. So let's see, or this is another recommendation on how to control the access of the local administrators on your domain. Okay, so you need to take care, okay, to separate your duties as an administrator. Okay, so here this is also another thing to take care. I think it will be more wise to use the firewall to manage something like this. You make a whitelist. Okay, he's saying to make a whitelist to enforce this policy. Okay, a whitelist of the websites that the local administrator can access, and these whitelists should include HTTPS websites. Here another recommendation, and very useful one, and actually I didn't know it before, that the backup operators group must have separate accounts for backup duties and normal operation tasks. So what we mean by this? A backup operators group, this is a default group in the Active Directory and in the servers or workstations. The members of this group can backup the servers or backup the machines, and not only this, they have the right to change permissions on the files. So for example, he's saying that file access restrictions present on NTFS disk drivers for backup and restore purpose. So for example, if I have a file and this file is on an NTFS partition, I can change the permissions if I am a member of the backup operators group. So the backup operators group can backup the machine or the server, and he can change the permissions on the files that he is backing up or restoring. So for example, what you mean by this? For example, if I am a backup operator and this is a file, and then I click, let me see, this is a file, and I click properties. Okay, and then if we go to security tab, these are rights. Here I can see that Kareem have full control over this folder. If I'm a backup operator or a member of the backup operator group, I can change these permissions. So he's saying if you are giving a user the right to backup a machine, he should do this with one user, okay, and if he need to change the permissions on a file so he can be able to backup up, this should be done back it up. He should use this with another user. So there is two users, one to backup and the other is to change the permissions of the files, because if a hacker was able to hack one of them, he will not be able to take full control. Okay, so this is one of the things also he's saying, that you need to, when you are he's saying backup operators are able to read and write to any file in the system regardless of the rights assigned to it. Okay, even though, for example, he is a member of this group, and for example there is a file that needs the administrator to access it, he can access it because he is backing them up. Okay, so he's saying regardless of the rights assigned to it, backup and restore rights permit users to circumvent the file access restrictions present on NTFS disk drivers for backup and restore purpose. Members of the backup operators group must have separate login accounts for performing backup duties. Okay, if there is no members of the backup operators, this is not a finding. So if you don't have backup operators, okay, and actually this is a good recommendation, because he's saying that backup operators will have excessive rights. They can access a machine to back it up or restore it, but they also can change the permissions of files. So this is excessive rights. You should have two separate accounts for doing this. Okay, so he's saying here that must have separate account for backup duties and normal operational tasks. Okay, so be able to write and regardless of the sign. So he's saying that members must have separate login accounts for performing backup duties. So this is one of the things, and actually I don't have any member in the backup operators, so this is not a finding. Okay, I don't have any, or this is not available actually. So he's saying, we can see here, ensure each member of the backup operator have separate accounts for backup functions and standard user functions. Okay, backup functions to backup and standard functions, I think he's talking about making permissions or doing permissions on or changing permissions on the machine, or if he is a standard user. So for example, if you have a user in your domain and he's a standard user and you need to make him to backup machines, you should have another account created for him to be a backup or to put it in the backup operator. So for example, user Karim is a normal user on the machine, okay, or in the domain, and I need to make him a backup operator. So I will create another user called Karim2 and put it in the backup operators group, and I leave him with his standard user, will not touch it. I will make another user to back up, but not to take Karim and put it in the backup operators. Okay, he will have a separate account to back up the machine and restore it. So this is one of the things. So you need to separate the backup from the normal operation. Okay, if you go there, let's see, sorry guys, I will pause it real quickly. If we go there and see the Active Directory, we go to built-in, so we can go here. This built-in will show us the built-in groups on the domain controller. So we can go built-in, and then we go to backup operators. You will see that there is no members in it, so we are clear to go here. We don't have any problem because we don't have any members. Okay, so I think here, guys, he's not saying that you need to make two accounts to manage files on the machine and to back it up. He is saying that you need to have two accounts. Okay, here we can see that managed application account password must be at least 15 characters in length. What we mean by this? Here we all know that when we make a user in the Active Directory, its sole purpose is to access the domain and for example working on the user's files and programs. So I have a machine, this machine is joined the domain, I need to create a user account so the user can access the machine, join the domain, and then begin working on his files on our file server and to work on the applications in the domain. This is normal. But there is some users you can create in the Active Directory. Its sole purpose is to run or start an application or a service. Okay, so this is called application account or service account. These are only used for this. It will not be used to log into a machine and work on files and programs. Okay, it will only use to start a program or start a service. So this is a very, very important account, and its password should be at least 15 characters in length. Okay, this is one of the things. And actually this password also should be changed regularly. Okay, and for example, if you have an application or service account, you will make it 15 character in length, the password, and you should give it the option of password never expire. And you need to change the password by yourself manually. Okay, why we give it a password never expire? Because if this account stopped for any reason, for example, if the password is expired and you forgot to change it after activating the password never expire, or let's say that you have an account and service account and the password was expired, the account will be locked and it will be stopped, and then the application that this account will start it or will work with it will stop also. So this account should be working 24/7 or 24 days, 7 days a week. Okay, so you need to give it the password never expire, so the account will not be locked or stopped even though the password has expired. So or you will put the password manually. So we will change, or we put the option password never expire, so the password will be working forever. And you need to manually change the password every time you choose. For example, for here it is for about, you can make it for 1 year, or because your password is very complex. So this is if you are working with application or service accounts. There is a group in the Active Directory called, or something called, managed service accounts or managed application accounts. If you put a user in this group, the Windows automatically will change the password every now and then without you doing this manually. Okay, so this is also one option we will discuss later, but you need to take care that your service accounts should have at least 15 characters password. Okay, and we will make a group policy, or we'll make something that we will tell the Active Directory that a certain group in it, we will make a group and we call it service accounts, and we will create users, or we put users to be a member in this group. The members in this group, their password should be at least 15 characters, and if you give it less, for example 14 character, it will not allow you. So we will make this now. We will make it through a utility called administrative or Active Directory Administrative Center. Let's see how this is done. So let's go and continue, because as you said before, service accounts are very, very strong, so I need to make sure that it is already done. So let's see how we can do this. Actually, I think let me show you all how this can be done. And actually also we need the password of the IT to be also complex. Okay, the password of the IT should be very complex, should be also at least 15 characters. As for the normal users, you can make it 7 or 8 anyway. So let me show you all here this. So here I will show you all how we can do this, how we can create a password policy and apply it to the service accounts only, not to all of the users in our Active Directory. So let me show you all how this can be done. We need to go and open something called in our tools. So let's see here, we will open our administrative tools and we will open a console. This console is called Administrative Center or Active Directory Administrative Center. This will connect to the Active Directory. So there is two tools to connect to the Active Directory. One called Active Directory Users and Accounts. This we can manage the users in the Active Directory, and another thing called Active Directory Administrative Center. This is also a tool you can manage the users and groups from it, but it is more detailed and you can do a lot of things through it. So let's see how we can use this tool to create a password policy to be applied only to managed or application or service Active Directory accounts. Let's see how we can do this. So let's go and create a password policy, and we apply it to a certain group in the Active Directory, and we will create a group and we will call it service accounts, and we will put users in it. Okay, first of all we need to make a new password setting or a new password policy. So how we can do this, we will go and open the domain. So this is our domain name, and then we will open system. So this is the red alert domain, and then we will open the system. Okay, and then we have password setting. Okay, and then we tell him to have stop or click on it, then we tell him new password setting. Okay, okay, so here we can see that there is a lot of things here we can see that we have a lot of settings to be. First of all, the name of the password setting, we will call it, for example, service account password setting. The precedence, I think the precedence here, if you have more than one password setting, which one will be applied in order. So for example, you have your normal Active Directory password setting. I think it will take maybe 1 or 2 or 3, and this will be applied after it. Precedence, I think he is saying here about, let me see, or let me have a look. Password setting precedence. Okay, he's saying that, no, let me show you all. Okay, precedence here is saying that the integer value can define during the policy. Lower precedence value means the higher priority. So for example, if you need a certain policy to be applied, you should give it a lower value. So for example, you can give it 1 when 1 means that it will be applied immediately. Okay, so this is I think it is done with the default password setting for the domain. Okay, and we will apply another one and give it 20. 20 means that it is lower in precedence. Okay, it will not be applied to the all of the users, and actually also we will apply it only to a certain group. So the precedence, I think it will not take anyway. So we need to know actually what is the precedence, or what are the password policies we have and their order, and see. Anyway, so we can see this is the password and this is the precedence, and then the minimum password length, we here can define it to be 15. Enforce password history, the number of times the password will be remembered. Password complexity to contain special characters. Protect from accident deletion. Okay, so we cannot delete it unintentionally. It will not be deleted unless we uncheck this option. And then enforce minimum password age. Minimum password age, user cannot change a password within number of days. Enforce maximum password age. This we can make it for maybe 60 or 90 or whatsoever, as you wish. And these are the setting, and we will apply it to a group in the Active Directory. We will call it service accounts, and this this group will contain all of the service accounts or the application accounts. So this will be done. Let me show you all how we can do this. First of all, we need to continue. So, and that's all. Actually, this also should be done for the IT admins. We need to do this. Okay, and if we go further, let me show you something here again. So here we can see that if the password is not set, for example, it was 15 and it was set to less than that, he will say that the password does not meet the password policy requirements. So you need to do this to secure our service accounts here, and also this should be done to the IT accounts actually, not only the service accounts. So we need to do this. So let's see how we can do this. We will go and let's go and continue again. So here we will put the password, so we will apply a password setting, and then we need to tell it precedence 14. I don't know why 14 anyway, so we'll make it higher value so it will not be applied immediately, and then we pick it 16, minimum length to be 16 characters, so we'll make it 16. Here I'm taking this recommendation. This is a PDF from one of my colleagues called Hyuka. This is a recommendation he published in a PDF on how to create passwords for your service accounts or Active Directory service accounts. Here he's saying that it should be at least 20 or something, or he's saying 20, but here we will make it minimum to be 16. Okay, so we will take it as you say, and we'll enforce the password. Let's see what is the history. First of all, we need to create, or we will go and create a group. We will call it service accounts, okay, or we will call it service accounts group. In it we will put all of the service accounts we have, okay. And by the way, if you are working with the managed service accounts group, this will be better, and I will talk about this option later. Okay, so service accounts, here we will put a member and make it a member, or put a user and make it a member of this group, and we will see if we try to change his password and put a password less than 15 characters, it will give us an error. Anyway, so we'll put a user and put it in this group, and we'll apply our password policy to him. So let's go and, for example, put any user as a test. So we'll take, for example, this user, and we will consider him to be a service account. Okay, so here we'll do this, and we will go and apply this policy, okay, with the setting, and then add the service account group. Okay, by the way, you need to define the other setting. So here is the service account will be applied to this group that we have done, and we should make the password and the number of passwords to remember, and a lot of things actually. So I will leave this PDF. I think we need to make the number of passwords remembered less than this anyway, so we will change it and leave it to 16. But this is how you can create a password policy and apply it to certain groups in our Active Directory. So this could be done. We need to do this and then apply it. Okay, so here we are. Let's see if we have any other settings. So here you can say, for example, Yuka is saying that we will make it 16 in length, 24 times. So we leave everything as it is. We will only change the minimum password length to be 16. Okay, so this is it, and we can name it as we wish, and we will make it minimum password age. So everything will be kept as default, but we will change the minimum password length. Okay, so this is one of the things. Let me show, or let me see how much time we have. Okay, so we have about 53 minutes. So anyway, we have configured this. So this is how we can apply a certain password policy to a certain or to some users in our Active Directory. Okay, so these users will only have this password. Not all of the users in my Active Directory will have this. Okay, so anyway, so let's continue with the other recommendations. So this, let me continue working. So let's continue working with the other recommendations. So we have done this already, and then we here is saying that these user accounts, or the service accounts and the managed application accounts, they must be changed annually. So the password should be 15 characters in length, and you should change the password manually after clicking on password never expire. Okay, and this should be recorded. Okay, so you need to record your service accounts, record their passwords, okay, and put a date when you will change them manually, because as I said before, we will put an option for to password never expire, because this account should be working 24/7 all the time. Okay, so he's saying that manage application accounts must be changed at least annually or when a system administrator with knowledge of the password leaves the organization. So if this is a best practice, if any administrator leaves your organization, all of your passwords should be changed because he knows them. Okay, and including the manage application accounts. Okay, so this should be done actually. So also we will see that this account should have the option of password never expire, and then you should change its password. Here we can say that, let's see, this is setting application account to expire may cause application to stop functioning. This is it, because this account is responsible for starting applications. So if you have the option of password, or if you leave this account to password expire, or if you have the option that this password should expire after a certain amount of time, this could cause applications to stop functioning. However, not changing them on a regular basis exposes them to attack. If managed server accounts are used, this is an option, we'll talk about it later. This elevates the need to manually change application account password. So if you have the managed service accounts option, the password will be changed automatically. Okay, but if you are changing the password manually, you should do this, okay, after making the password never expire. I will show you all what I mean by this, so wait for a moment and I will show you all. So we have an account. Remember, if you go to our Active Directory, so let me show you all this. If you go to our Active Directory, this is our group. We have the service accounts here, and we have a user. So let me show you all. Here I have a user. Open it, and remember, this user is a service account. Okay, so we will open it. Okay, his password, let's go to the account setting of this user. Here we can see that password never expire is not checked, so this means this account password will expire after 90 days. Okay, so this means this is a service account. We consider this as a service account. So if the password expired after 90 days, this account will be closed, or this account will be stopped. So we need to make sure this will not happen, because this is a service account or application account responsible for running a service or running an application. So we will tell him password never expire, and then we will note the time. So for example, this is 1/9/2021, so we need to check this option and change the password manually 1/9/2022. Okay, so this what he means by this recommendation. So let's do this. So we need to check the option, tell him password never expire, because this is a service account, and then we need to tell him apply and okay. So this should be done actually, and then we have already used this. If you need to know the expire date of this account, we have done this before, so you can run the same command, okay, to know if this account when it was last, his password when it was set. Okay, this we have done it before already, so we can do it now. So I will go to domain controller and tell him the user account or the service account name, and see when was the last time we have set the password for this service account. So we will go and run a PowerShell command. This could be done from any workstation or any machine joined the domain, because this is an Active Directory account, it's not a local account. So we will go and tell him the user or the service account name. So we have here this user or this service account, his name Bruce Aroma. So we'll go and take his account, and then we will put it in the PowerShell to see when his password was set. We consider this as a service account. So let's go here and type the password, or so type the username, and then we will press enter to see when was the password set. Okay, so password, last password set. Here we can see that it was set at 16/08/2021. So we need to change his password 16/08/2022. Note this aside, so you can change it when the time comes. Okay, so this is what we mean by change it annually and to give it the password never expire option. So this is one of the things we need to make sure not is no more than 1 year old. Okay, it is recommended to use system managed service account. This is an option introduced recently in the Windows Server. I will show you all this in a separate video, how we can create an account or a service account. Its password will be changed automatically without our interference. We will see this, how this can be done in later videos. Okay, so this is the recommendation, and we will stop at this recommendation. Windows Server 2019 shared user accounts must not be permitted. Okay, so we'll stop at this recommendation. We have the minute, or we stopped at the minute 24:34. So hope this video was informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.